So 19th try, here we go. Really? What happened? I was left clicking it. 19th try, here we go. Really? Shock Tower? This is like a flat fallen, whatever it's called. Like a traditional skin fallen, or is it like a mixed? Yeah, it's traditional skin fallen basically. And it's shock tower, so it's really bad. I mean, traditional fallen isn't too bad in the sense that you can still gain progress like this because it's not as hot, but you don't get enough. Yeah, this is not good. Yeah, see, 3%. The 44 kills, but it's 3%. There's two yellow elites so far. And also I play a little bit per keystone is because you want to like get an idea of how you're kiting. So like and you get a feel of your build's performance to know like how much you're kiting that you can handle. So 9%. The 9% on a bad shock tower floor. So like it's not about me forcing this floor to work necessarily because it looks like it, but it's more about testing, you know, how you can get your progression. Because why am I talking about that? It's because you want to start this second floor potentially with at least some progress. Because if you check, if you like to play the traditional check of floor 2, what floor 2 is, right, which is what I'm doing, you end up wasting the floor if the kills are able to give you a small starting percentage. It's kind of like the small Hell Rift, so to speak. You can decide to skip the entire Hell Rift or play the Hell Rift for the 4% or whatever, 4 to 6%, and then check the floor 2. If the floor 2 sucks, then you just get out. But if you just walk a Hell Rift that you could have gained 4% and you didn't, then you wasted the Hell Rift that gave you a reasonable Hell Rift. And this field, by the way, is super hot. It has a lot of Lacuni Huntresses. So that shock tower is bad. This field is worse. It's worse than the shock tower. And it's not because I'm playing bad on purpose, by the way. When you see this many Lacuni Huntresses like that, that is super painful. And not only that, the minions Shadow of Death, those minion ghosts, are hurting also. So this field is actually more painful. Obviously, if you can get lucky, maybe you can get your first pylon as a shield pylon, then it will back you up obviously with a shield pylon play. But in terms of this fields being fields, not all fields are playable. Right? So specifically speaking, people who fish like a specific maps that they want, they're not gonna get necessarily what they think is just because the floor is ideal. So I got 9% easier from a forced play shock tower map versus a second floor fields that would have been better on the first floor, but I would tell you that had this been a first floor fields, I would not have seen 9%. That's my difference that I'm trying to say. Because this is too hot. You wouldn't get even 9% faster than that previous shock tower. Let's see if I can get my 11% pylon at all. Probably not. Yeah. So that's why I don't even declare like map limitations. So for example, obviously Fields of Misery is like one of the best maps. Of course, there are certain layouts that could be better of fields. Obviously, that monster type wasn't it. But what I'm saying is some people declare that they want to play only the best four maps, right? Which is what you want. You want the best four maps, meaning Fields of Misery, Festering Woods, maybe sometimes, not always, because the obstacles block too much, or you don't get the four corner, or and so on. And then Battlefield, obviously, if you can get the square version, it's better than the long Battlefield, unless the monster type is good for it's the monster type is fast enough to follow you and you can kite forever. So for example, scavengers doesn't matter what type it is of the battlefield, but basically if you declare some maps right as your limitation, then that feels doesn't qualify. The shock tower I gained 9% better than that fields. So the shock tower was better. Even if the shock tower map is bad itself, by the progression percentage gained in terms of how easy to gain even a minuscule amount of percentage on the progress bar, that fields was awful because there were thousands of Lakuni Huntresses. Versus a shock tower, of course, shock tower sucks because of the shock tower itself. But if you could play the density that were in the non-placed shock tower locations, you would have gotten minuscule percentages better than mass Lakuni Huntresses on the fields that had it. So that's why I play more of my keystones. It's not because it's not that I don't want to fish. It's that even if I fish, there are some monster types that you can't play anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Which is why Oryx Dreams work, because a lot of people already skip those monster types. But then at the same time, it will go back to my other previous topic that I was talking of the side-by-side comparison, where you might not even get a good first pylon. Of course, if you get everything good in the Oryx, then that Oryx, there's no question, there's no doubt about an Oryx Dream. If you get a good Oryx that like plays more than smoothly, there's nothing to talk about. I'm referring to the Oryx that are like mediocre, more or less. Because if you're thinking of the godly Oryx, well, what is there to talk about? There isn't anything to talk about. It's basically your opportunity to fail if you don't play well, like at all. But in terms of a non-Oryx versus a mediocre Oryx, the mediocre Oryx can be worse than the non-Oryx. That is my 20th. because just now it was 19th. Hulks are nice like this, but they're too healthy for the kill streaks this season. And I don't have damage. And there's too many elites. Yeah, there's too many elites. Am I even going the right way? I just want to check what floor 2 is. Okay, I did.
I need to go back.
Okay. So that was the 20th. Floor 1 archives, floor 2 temple of the Firstborn. 19th try. Just now was the floor 1 shock tower skin fallen, default skin fallen. For 9% progress into floor 2 fields of misery with mass Lacuni huntresses that failed. Okay. So 21. 21st. 21st. Nope. Well, this is interesting for kill streak, I guess. So Bogan, Trapper slash the other cousin. This is good for kill streaks. But the problem with this floor is that it's too linear. So unless you get fast elites to follow you, you're gonna have a hard time getting the kill streaks to actually hit on the elites themselves. And then on top of it, you get lost like this. So this is the floor that's like really bad because you get lost. And the positioning of the elite might not be favorable to your kill streak power. So like twisters for like nothing. See, this is like nothing. So this is like, but if it's more dense though, it could work. So there's 2 yellow elites here. So like, now the problem is there's no density. So like, had it have more density, I could pull potentially, but then there's nothing. So there's not, so I can't do anything on the 2 yellow elites at all. So like here has a bit more on the count, but then now there's nothing to play for the 50 kills when you get the 50. I mean, if you get the 50 without. So, what's the next? Nope. So I skip. Now going back like this is because floor 2 doesn't make up the time loss. But at least you determine, right? You determine how you're gonna play it.